So for this particular session, I'll just be giving key highlights on the Kenyan report and what key issues are emerging from that, what challenges are emerging from that, and also just to guide us in terms of what proposed recommendations are emerging from that for us to be able to create an enabling environment for increased AGPO uptake in Kenya. In the AGPO provision in Kenya, the government has set aside 30% of the procurement budget to go to the special interest group, which are women, youth, and PWDs. So this 30% is not just for women, but it's meant to be spread across all the special interest groups, which are women, youth, and PWDs. So given the legal framework already currently existing, I think what we are missing in Kenya, we can say, is political will, because beyond the legal framework being there is need for political will in order for this to be implemented. And it doesn't just stop at political will, but beyond our political will, of course, we have to intentionally ensure that we are setting aside resources that will go towards supporting this access to the procurement opportunities by the women. So we've set the regulatory framework. The government in Kenya has even gone ahead and has procurement regulatory and oversight bodies. We have the PPRA, and now even the representative from Treasury here is from the AGPO, Secretariat of the National Treasury, just to guide and monitor the implementation of AGPO. But despite us having all these really robust legal and policy frameworks to guide AGPO in Kenya, we know that there's been a lot of challenges still facing AGPO, still hindering the full utilization or exploration of the full potential of what AGPO could actually do in terms of benefiting the women who are targeted for the fund. So we realized that this particular study we are speaking to was conducted in 2020. So most of the references will be alluding to will be reflective of that period. So for example, in the financial year 2020-2021, which was what was reflected on the report, only half of the funds allocated and intended for special groups under AGPO were released from the National Treasury. So it means that if we are only releasing half of what was intended for AGPO, then already just by that act, we are disadvantaging more women from accessing these AGPO opportunities, because there needs to be resource allocation, which is what will guide what is actually allocated to the AGPO beneficiaries. So key issues to note is that the women-led businesses lost about 50% of the AGPO opportunities due to unactualized budgets. And this unactualization of the budgets creates a false impression that the women benefit more from the 30% reserved tenders, yet in actual values, it would be far less had we released 100% of what was initially intended to go to AGPO. The other key issue to note is that women-led businesses frequently bid for low-value contracts, such as stationery, cleaning, and catering, which is why I think we are very proud to be associated with Olivia, because we want more women to see and understand that it's possible to compete with men, it's possible for them to go for these high-value tenders, but even at the tendering categorization processes, through our interaction with these women in business, you get to realize that there are tenders that are by default allocated to the women in business. They're really, really low value tenders. So from that process already, they're being disadvantaged because only low value tenders are left for women to compete for under AGPO. So we are saying that the women in business by default assume that they are supposed to bid for the low value contracts such as stationery, cleaning and catering, which have smaller profit margins than high value construction or technology contracts which are dominated by men-led businesses. We also would like to note that women-led businesses are targets for sexual exploitation. That is something that has really come out through this particular research process, and you realize that the procurement agents, which are mostly men, usually use their position and power to ask for sexual favors from these women. A majority of them feel powerless, obliged to giving in on sexual favors, which is something that ordinarily would not have happened to a man. Most of them tend to now just shy away from even attempting to go for the AGPO tenders, because they know, or it is a perception out there that if you go for the tender processes, by default you're expected to give in sexual favors or bribe before you can be awarded a tender. There's also the issue of financial corruption, which has been very rampantly reported in the tendering processes, not just AGPO, but of course it also affects access to government procurement opportunities. In the survey that was conducted when we were undertaking the study, 89% of the women surveyed had been asked to pay bribes to win government contracts. They reported that. And some of them reported to have submitted very severally. Some of them even mentioned that they were informally informed that they had won the tenders, but they needed to, submit, probably bribe someone. In an event that they didn't do that, they ended up losing those particular contracts to other women. To the specific challenges facing women and businesses in AGPO, I'll just highlight a lot of them. These have already been spoken into by Diana and Gilbert. But then to the specific ones that were highlighted from the study, we had complex tender bidding processes, which had cost implications. For example, the really heavy paperwork that normally accompanies the application of the tender processes, which means you have to constantly be spending money on printing the very many documents that are supposed to be submitted. There's also the duality in application, because we have both the manual and electronic processes where you need to access the forms electronically, but then you have to fill manually and submit them. So those particular processes are very tedious and have cost implications, of course, by virtue of the fact that you're submitting a lot of paperwork for the tendering processes in form of supporting documents. So this is inhibitive to women participation, particularly because we know they are disadvantaged already economically. But if we are to submit the same number of forms and I'm a bit disadvantaged economically, then it means maybe by virtue of me being economically disadvantaged, I might decide not to go for the tendering processes because I feel the process is too expensive for me to afford.